Hey folks, welcome to another Broken Meeple review, and today I'm looking at the very noisy, we'll get onto that a bit later, Oriflamme, or Oriflame, or Oriflamme.
We have to wait for Vegeta and Trunks to come out of the hypertonic lion tamer.
That one was on purpose.
Could have been.
I have no idea how to pronounce this word. I have not heard anybody pronounce it to me, and I'm kind of like, ugh, okay, but I'm just going to call it Oriflamme for now. You know, Oriflamme, that's about as good as I'm going to get it, really, but you know me and my pronunciation skills. So, what's this? I have no idea at first, you know, literally this just showed up out of the blue. Apparently this has been out for, you know, a little while in 2019, but literally I didn't ask for it. I got suggested it to me by my contact at Asmodee. You know, I was already trying to ask for a different game, and he said, "Oh, do you want to try this one out? We've had it for about a year now, and we're having fun with it, and I feel like you should give this one a look." So I was like, okay, I trust his word, and I've decided to check this one out. It's a 3-5 player game that supposedly only takes about 20 minutes, designers by Adrian and Axel Hesling. I think that's how you pronounce it. And from Studio H. I know nothing about these two designers. I know nothing about this publisher. This really was diving into the deep end as to what is this game, is it going to be any good? But a short 30-minute tops game for 3-5 players? You know what, I feel like we could do with a few more of those at the moment, you know, giant 3-hour monstrosity Euro games notwithstanding. You know, it's nice to have some small games that could do the mark as well, and I feel like there just hasn't been a lot of those in recent months. Could be wrong, but that's just my current thought at the moment. So what on earth are you doing here? Well, theme, the king has died without any descendants. Throughout the realm, the most influential families try to seize power through conspiracy, cunning, and blood. You are the head of one of these families. And that's about as far as it goes. You know, the theme in this is kind of, yeah, kind of missed out. But what you're doing in this game is you have a hand of 7 character cards out of a possible 10. So 3 won't get used in the game. Everybody's got the same deck of cards, but you'll draw 7 at random, so everybody's different, and you'll play 6 rounds. So one of those 7 you have won't get used. But the way it works is that there is a row where it tells you like it's resolving from left to right, and each player takes it in turns to place a card face down in that row. Subsequent players have to then place it to the left or the right of all cards that are currently in that row. In subsequent rounds, you can stack cards on top of each other that are your own, but it nullifies pretty much everything about the card below it, but it allows you to create some cool combos here and there. But for the most part, you'll be placing to the left or right of this tableau of cards. And then once everybody's placed a single card, then in order of the colour from left to right, or whatever direction it tells you to put the token in, it's kind of pointless, just do it from left to right. But let's say yellow is the first card, and then red has 2 cards, and then green has a card. Yellow will go first, and then red twice, and then green. But you have a choice of whether to flip the card or not. If you choose not to flip it, you put an influence point on it and you save it up for a future round. Influence points total wins the game. But if you choose to flip it, you take all the influence that's on the card and resolve the special ability, which messes around with the tableau, kills off other players' cards, gives you more influence based on whether you've saved up a lot of it, or there's even an ambush card where if somebody tries to kill off that card, you get a bonus and it messes up for them. So there's an element of bluffing and an element of, not necessarily strategy, but like how much are you going to try and press your luck for whether your card is going to sit there before somebody kills it off. But then the whole threat of an ambush, which you may or may not have even started the game with, is there as well, where it's like, oh, that could be that double conspiracy card, but if that's an ambush, do I want to try it? Are you bluffing me? Yeah, there's elements of that. But that is essentially what each round is. You go through the entire row deciding if you want to flip the card or not, and once they're all done, you move on to the next round where you place another card down, and then again it goes from left to right along this whole row, and you choose whether to flip a card over, whether it was the one you placed down in that round or in a previous round. And so as you go through, different cards will flip over and people will get points in various ways, whether they're stealing them from an opponent or killing off other people's cards, and after 6 rounds you basically just total up all the points you've collected that isn't on the tableau of cards and see who wins. It's, in terms of rules, pretty straightforward. But, you know, does it give us enough of fun, you know, besides just flipping cards over? Is there enough bluffing and strategy in this game to warrant the 20-30 minutes? You're kind of hard pressed not to, really, but I need to go through this in more detail quite clearly. So duration, it says 20 minutes on the box. It's not far wrong, particularly with 3 players. You're looking at 20 minutes to 30 minutes a game. There's no reason this should take 30 minutes, longer than 30 minutes. It should easily top at that level, even including rules teaching, because there's not a lot of rules, and to be fair, a lot of the rules are kind of the general overview of the game's written on the back, but, the rulebook's got about 2.5 pages you need to read from this small book. Really not that difficult. So 30 minutes, you're talking that this is a filler game category. We need more filler games at the moment, people, okay? Enough of the 3-hour Euros. Can we have some short games? And this one, thankfully, doesn't overstay its welcome. Downtime is pretty minimal because it doesn't take that long to figure out where you're gonna place your card. And as you're going through the row, everybody's got usually a few turns each in order to decide whether to flip a card or not. But again, the game is quite short, and you're constantly having to think about what the other players are planning with their face-down cards and assess the threat level, shall we say, on your own tableau. So 20 to 30 minutes does the job nicely. In ease of play, I've already kind of measured to this, but it is a straightforward game. The rulebook itself is not tricky, although, give me a sec, I want to show you something specific later, but let me try and get the rulebook out at least. Well, I say rulebook, it's a little sheet. That's literally it. That is your rulebook. That's the end of the game and the reference aid for the characters. That's set up, so literally the only rules you have to read is that. And granted, a little text heavy, but it's 2 pages of rules. There really is not a lot to read in this. And there's a pictorial example of how the resolution takes place. And to be fair, that's kind of the meat of the game. You need to understand that bit in order to do well. So ease of play is not that difficult. I wouldn't necessarily want to put this in front of someone who's never seen a game before, like gateway level, because I feel that bluffing and intrigue and stuff like that isn't something that comes naturally to new players of the gaming genre. But I feel this is light, and I feel this would actually appeal to light, medium and heavyweight gamers as a nice little filler. So ease of play, pretty solid. Now tactics and strategy, not so much of a strategy in this game. I mean, you can combo certain characters to do nice things, but at the end of the day, you've got to react to how the tableau is developing and what other players have already played, because you know what they've played. If they flip their cards over, you can see it, and if their cards get killed off, they're left face up, so you can tell, he's already used his archer, so I'm safe from an archer probably, because he is already dead, so I could stick my guy on the end and I should be okay. And you might say, oh, somebody's already used their ambush, so if that one's got a lot of points on it, I'd better kill that one off quick. And even then, you've got to think about your own cards. And I love in this how, firstly, you can put them out on the left and or right, so you can sort of decide where they're going to go. But the shenanigans with the abilities, like moving cards around and killing people off, can create some interesting lineups, particularly with cards that get you points for having your cards bunched together, for example. But I like how there's that cool bluffing element of, do I want to flip this card or not? I don't know. Like, for example, the other day, there's a card called the Heir, H-E-I-R, and it gains you points if there's no other card with the same name on the board. So basically, you have to be the sole heir. That's about the only bit of theme you're going to get, really. And so I'm thinking, right, I'm going to flip this one this turn and get me 2 points. And then red flips over an heir the card before me. It's like, do I flip mine then to cancel those out, or do I just leave it generating influence points so that I can flip it later? So I choose to leave it face down. But because nobody wants the other player getting 2 points every round, somebody else comes by and kills it off for me. And as soon as they do, somebody else flips another heir. It's like, for crying out loud. But I let mine continue to build up because people are afraid it's an ambush there, and somebody else kills off the other heir. So as soon as that happens, I then go, flip, heir, all those points, oh look, and another 2 because there's no other heir. You can set up really cool plays like that by biding your time, thinking about the long game rather than the short game, even though 30 minutes is not exactly long. And I like that. I like that it's not so much it's bluffing to an extent, but it's not like Sheriff of Nottingham where you are directly lying to the opponent. You're not doing any negotiations or anything. You're not bargaining with other players. It's more a case of, this card is face down, you don't know what it is, what do you think it is, and what do I know it is? And am I going to capitalize off your fear, off your uncertainty, or am I just going to flip this because it's a cool ability and I need it now? I need to kill off whatever you've got. So there's enough here to engage you for the 30 minutes. Each round plays out in a very similar way, but the tableau obviously builds up and up as the game goes on. Sometimes it can even regress back. If there's like a big killing spree and everybody's just killing off characters, then suddenly there's not as many cards. But there's different ways to approach each round, and you have to react on the fly. You can't say, right, from the get-go, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and that'll be great. Yeah, it's not likely to go that way for you. So you need to react, and I like games where it's got like that tactical sort of play. So yeah, plenty enough in this to keep you entertained. So in terms of aesthetics, this is where things take a little bit of a drop. You know, the card artwork is not bad. You know, it's bright in some places, but it's decent artwork on the cards, and they are a good size. But would you take even a second look at that box cover? That is a really boring box cover, guys. I mean, you've got like a knight and some ladies standing there with a banner, then a bunch of people that are just black and blue standing there on a snowy day. It's like, what is this supposed to even tell you about the game? Especially if you have no idea how to pronounce the title or know what it means, like I didn't. So I feel like this would just like sit on the shelf and nobody would bat an eye at it. It's not a pleasing one on the shelf. Another thing I'm not a fan of is the way this is packaged. You've been hearing this like shaking about a lot, haven't you? And yeah, that's a flaw with this. So let me just take the lid off. Huh? Come on, lid. Why wouldn't the lid come off? It's because it's a tray. It's a shoebox tray. Remember somebody else who used to do stuff like this? Oh, what was it? Oh, yeah. Oh, Victory Point Games? Yeah, they were certainly known for their cosmetics. But the problem with having this tray is, firstly, let me just try and show you this game. So today, I'm talking about Oriflamme. Yes, see? As soon as you try to hold this upright, the tray comes out. It's not secure enough, and I'm going to find those tokens later. But I already did this before the video started. See these? These fell out before I even set the thing to record. Why is it a tray box? Was a lid too hard, to do like everyone else? It's not sealed, it's not tight, it's a loose-fitting tray. So rubber bands might be needed. But then on top of that, when you get into it, yeah, it's not exactly secure in there. There's no insert, there's no nothing. So you probably want to bag up the tokens, and the tokens are standard, they're sturdy, they're pretty chunky actually. I mean, the tokens are actually pretty good quality, but everything's loose in there. The cards, you're going to have to rubber band them or stick them in the bag, so this is definitely one you need baggies for. Granted, I haven't yet put baggies in this, but I'm certainly going to after this video is done. The cards themselves, again though, the artwork is fine, but nothing to write home about, but at least it's clear, you can tell what each character is, and the size is not bad either. I mean, that's a fairly decent size for a card. You should be able to see the tableau as you're going through the game relatively easily, and it does the job, and you can easily tell what color a particular person's card is, well, providing that you're able to see red, blue, yellow, and green, fine. Yes, there is a different logo on the back for each of these, but, it depends on whether you can remember that red is the Hydra and, blue is the Hawk, the Pegasus, and yellow is the Unicorn, as long as you can remember that. You do at least get a nice reference aid, though, with all the character abilities, which is pretty easy to understand, and these aren't exactly difficult abilities. I mean, I've not with any of these do you have to read the rulebook to rule check it, apart from possibly the ambush card, because you just need to understand how that works on resolution. But other than that, the rest of these abilities are pretty straightforward. So the aesthetics are kind of hit and miss. There is nothing in here that I would say is a stellar production. And there are certainly things in here that I think are irritating from an aesthetics point of view. I mean, this is definitely kind of like an indie small publisher, I think, doing this game. And I feel like, some more money could have been thrown into it. But then this is a game that costs you about, I forget what the price was, but it's only in the low teens in most places. It's a fairly cheap game to acquire, so you kind of have to expect that the components are not going to be like game right levels of coolness. So Immersion, even though the theme is not really here or there, I mean, you could call this whatever generic fantasy you like, generic medieval, Game of Thrones, whatever. The theme doesn't really matter. But the immersion of being in the game and trying to bluff your opponents is where that engagement comes back in. And I like bluffing games. Bluffing games really do well for me. I like the idea that I can play games with my opponent, mind games, and try and hide away in the shadows, or jump out and say, "Look at me, soldier, dead." Stuff like that. And as the game progresses, people start catching on to what other people are doing. The more characters that are used, you realise, he hasn't got use of that character anymore, so I could probably sneak in with this. But do you have an ambush? Do you have an ambush or conspiracy? Did you get them from the start of the game? I don't know, because everybody has different cards, so there's no perfect information. So even though the theme is non-existent, this is a 20 to 30 minute filler game, what you kind of expect really, and certainly the bluffing aspect keeps people engaged from an interactive perspective. This is definitely quite an interactive game. You are outright killing each other's cards. You are outright stealing from opponents at times. You are hoping that opponents will try and kill off your card so that your ambush goes off. You are deliberately bluffing your face down cards, hoping that you can get your conspiracy out to get you a ton of points. So you have to pay attention to the opponents, you can goad them, you can trash talk to your heart's content. This is definitely an interactive filler game at its heart. So finally, longevity. Longevity is not too bad. I mean, you are using 7 out of 10 characters for your hand. You only use 6 out of the 7, so you're technically using 6 out of 10 cards per game. And the combinations of what each player has means that there's quite a lot of different combinations of how the game can play out. Because remember, your hand is different from theirs, different from theirs, different from theirs. And with 3 to 5 players as the player count, it works with all 3 of those player counts. 3, 4, 5, I found it scale pretty well. There's no 2-player mode in this and there's no solo mode in this, so you're probably going to be restricted to playing this at your group night or with friends. Couples aren't going to get anything from this, and nor a solo player. But I feel that for a 20 to 30 minute filler, I'm actually enjoying this to play it multiple times in the session because it is only 20 to 30 minutes. I teach the game and go, there you go, that's Oriflamme. Do you like it? Yeah, you want to try it again? Cool, we'll do it again. And I have frequently played this 2 or 3 times in a row because people have enjoyed it, or they want to, oh, we've learned it once, now can we play it again now that we've really grasped it? So I like it when games finally do this, Can I do that to Terraforming Mars? No. I mean, there are some people that probably would, but I don't have 6-7 hours spare. Well, actually, the current crisis at the moment, maybe I do. But I don't have always that much time to be able to play the same massive Euro twice in a row. With this, it's nice that I can just play a simple filler twice in a row. So, all in all, this was a big surprise for me. I feel that this one's going to be like my equivalent of it's technically a 2019 game, but this is definitely my first hidden gem of the year that I have found. Would not have even looked at it twice, would not have even paid it the slightest bit of attention if my Asmodee contact hadn't told me about it, but I enjoyed this. It's 20 to 30 minutes, not exactly a big time sink. 3 to 5 players, great. I've got something that works with 5 players. A little bit more chaotic with 5, but still scales well. And it's not difficult to teach. If anything, the major flaws I have with this game is mostly aesthetics, and, well, for a filler game, you can only expect so much. So yeah, I enjoyed this, and I think I'm going to hang on to this in the collection. I think this will do nicely for a small bluffing filler game. So my final word on Oriflamme, or however you pronounce it, is that this is definitely a hidden gem filler game. It's one that may not look pleasing to the eye or particularly appealing on the table, but what it lacks in visual appeal, it makes up for in bluffing, intrigue, and engaging mechanics that barely take 30 minutes to play and teach, which is something that we need more of in today's industry. So, Oriflamme, give it a shot. I'm going to give this one a solid 8 out of 10. I feel that this one, definitely should be in your collection for a filler game if you're into bluffing mechanics. There are other bluffing filler games out there like Cockroach Poker and Skull and that, which I do like, but I feel that this one just gives you a little bit more tactics than some of those. I mean, Skull, you are literally just playing the player, a bit like poker. Same with Cockroach Poker, you're essentially playing the player. Here, I feel like there's a little bit more to it. So with that resolution and the fact that I can hear people doing gardening outside, I'm going to sign off. So that's it for me. Thank you to everybody who watches this channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube, the Facebook, Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I got a lot of different avenues for this channel, and it would be great to see you on all of them. If you like what you see, then please, write in the comments, make suggestions if you like. I like constructive feedback as much as anyone else. And if you just want to talk about this game and how you've heard of it or how it's done for your group, then by all means, let me know, as well as everyone else. So I'm going to sign off, and regardless of whether you've decided to axe off my conspirator or I've ambushed your assassin, it's still only a game, and a fairly short and interesting one at that. That's Oriflamme, take care, I'm the Broken Meeple, and I'll see you soon.